this way. Great to have you on the call. And just so that you're all aware, every talk that has been done here in Regroup is on the website doingfamilyright.com. And so if you're newer to the groups, know that there are 280 recorded talks like this. And it's my prayer that you would go there when you need a shot in the arm of encouragement and pick one that looks encouraging and grab it and run. Um, and so this talk today is because of you. You have asked a host of great questions, and matter of fact, this is in this year. This is the third in a row of actually 4 weeks where I will answer your questions. And I try to limit it to 30 or 40 minutes answering questions, but this group and the other groups and even the women in recovery and the women partners who are hurting because of men's addictions, all of the questions that have come in are worthy to be answered, and I do my best with my background, training, and experience to answer them so that they can encourage you all. And so yeah, so I will jump into uh, regroup questions number 3. The question was asked: what resource or book outside the Bible has been the biggest impact on your life, meaning my life, and has framed my affection of Jesus? Okay. So, um, so I did do some work on the books, and there isn't just one book. I've got a collection here. I think at least 3, uh, but so let me share with you those. I have benefited by reading the book Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren. That book was really central to just getting my whole life figured out in a way that would honor the Lord. And you understand it's a little bit unfair to ask which book because I have over 5,000 books in my library. Yeah, so Purpose Driven Life. Another book that I found helpful, and this is over 30 years ago, and I have it here on my desk still, Seven Seasons of a Man's Life by Patrick Morley. And that book is really about examining your life and making sure that you work through issues and things like that. A wonderful book. Another book that I found really helpful by Rob Reimer, and I just read in the last year, it's called Soul Care by Dr. Rob Reimer. I went through that with my accountability partner. And so, there's a collection of books that were really helpful for me to continue to take me deeper in my walk with Jesus. And uh, I mean, I've read 4 new books on personal growth in my faith in the last year, and there's continue to keep learning. I have a book that I'm half done now that I'm reading. I just finished a book by Dr. Steve Brown called Jesus Centered. And yeah, so keep looking for resources that take you deeper. But you asked the question, what resource or book? And I'm going to go off the board a little bit and tell you that likely the number one thing that keeps me alive in my walk with Jesus and tracking with Him is weekly accountability. Uh, I've been meeting 35 years now with the same man. Tomorrow morning, we'll meet again for an hour, hour and a half, and we push each other to become the best man, the best father, husband, grandfather, the best in our profession, what we're called to do, and to really walk with Jesus. And before I was accountable to him out here in the Fraser Valley, I was accountable for 8 years to another person out there. And so here you are, some of you for the first time, maybe starting to be accountable to somebody else. Unequivocally, one of the most enriching, growing, challenging things in my life is to be committed weekly to accountability with someone else. I read my Bible every day. I'm in prayer every day. Those things are a baseline, of course. But yeah, so there's some books and my thoughts about accountability. The next question asked is number two for day three here is, what is the biblical standard for a husband? What is the biblical standard for a husband? And you may want to go to the talk called Irresistible Biblical Manhood, subtitled How to Be the Hottest Man Alive to the One Woman of Your Dreams. And if you haven't had that talk, what's the biblical standard for a husband? There's 5 characteristics there. And one is you treat her as a priority. She feels significant. You are a safe place for her. She feels protected by you. You value her. She feels cherished by you. You sacrifice for her. She feels honored by your sacrifice. And you have a vibrant faith, and she feels led because of the example of your life, a vibrant faith. You ask me, I give it to you. Those 5 change everything. I teach that to men's conferences, and again, you can hear the whole plan, but that's what the standard in my mind for what a God-honoring husband who leads his family well looks like. I hope that's helpful. Recovery talks, number 3. Recovery talks and material focus mainly on the responsibility of ownership of the addicted person. Okay, so first of all, it should. So recovery talks and material focuses mainly on the ownership and responsibility of the addicted person. It should. You've got an issue that you need to deal with. Well, I understand the necessity of this approach, the person goes on to say, because of the avoidant nature of the addicted mind and heart. Okay, so they're not necessarily facing things and dealing with things, avoidant nature. I've noticed that the people around the addict can play a significant role in the perpetuation and inflammation of the negative cycle tendencies and acting out of the addict. Now, I just want you to know that there's an assumption here that I don't buy into. There's an assumption that the person around me, my wife or close friend or whatever, is partly responsible in some way for me acting out. The perpetuation of the cycle of me acting out is they're part of the problem of me acting out. Okay, so that implication needs to be changed. See, when you're sitting here in recovery and saying, well, I can't recover because she reacts like this. I can't recover because she's being critical of me. I can't recover because she doesn't support me. I can't recover. When the minute you say, I can't recover because you're looking at her to say, she's got to be different. She's not the right disposition and all that. Look, I'm not saying that it's easy when your wife is ragging on you or doesn't like steps in your recovery. She thinks she should be doing something else, and that frustrates you. But how do you handle this interplay between you and your wife where it feels like she's not being what you need, and so you say your addiction's going on because of her? You stop blaming anyone else in your life. Stop it. You will never get free if you continue to blame other people. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't marriage issues. But to say that, well, my addiction's going on because of her, no, you need to say, hey, listen, I need to pull away from this discussion right now. It's not helping me. You need to do whatever you need to do. But you see, for you to say, well, listen, I'm acting out again because of my wife, you've heard me say it before, boys make excuses, men make changes. And it comes down to simply taking responsibility for your life and your choices, regardless of other people. She's not making you do things at gunpoint. She's not telling you you have to do this. I mean, she's going to maybe criticize you, maybe be impatient with you, be all kinds of things. And does she have issues to work through? Sure. But is she on this call asking this question? No. I want the wife to work through her issues as well. It's not like you're the only one with issues, but please don't allow yourself the foolish luxury of saying, my addiction is being perpetuated because of her. I think that's clear enough. There's a follow up to that question, and I want to answer it back to back because they're related. And often people who are close to the addict, i.e., spouse, gain something for themselves from the dysfunction of the addict in a morbid codependency and are often attracted to the addict because of it. Well, again, there's an assumption being made. They say often. I'm not sure it's often, but what happens is if the wife is a rescuer and always has to rescue, and you were messed up, so they were rescuing you, and you're starting to get healthy, and they're getting frustrated because it appears that they're not needed anymore. I can get the dysfunctional interplay that could go on, but they weren't attracted to the person of the husband. They were attracted to the neediness of the husband, and it feels like maybe they're not needed anymore. So whether it's an unhealthy need to control things, or be the rescuer, be the savior, whatever. And does she have her own major issues? Sure, I'm not going to disagree that some of the women you're married to are have got some issues to work through. Not a problem with that. But what you have to do is get somebody outside the marriage who's going to anchor you in your recovery to go in a direction that gets you freedom and integrity. And then as you and your spouse collide because of her apparent need to control you, or you need to be dependent on her, or she's got a hyper need to control, that needs to be worked through with a marriage counselor. But don't keep using that as your reason why I'm falling back into my addiction. I mean, if I said, I will give you $1,000 a day if you don't act out, look at porn and everything, you likely would stop. Even if your wife is saying, I double dog dare you to look at porn and masturbate today. I mean, even if she in your mind was pushing you, you could stop because of, extrinsic motivation like $1,000 a day. But you see, your freedom brings such peace and joy that it will bury what $1,000 a day would be. It's a wonderful thing. And it goes on to say that this is common amongst couples where one is addicted. I would say no. I would say no. The idea that you're in an addiction mess because of the dysfunction between you and your spouse, one, maybe 2 out of 10, that would be true of. So your assessment that it's common with many couples where one person is addicted, that there's this codependency that keeps it all going, I wouldn't say that is accurate from my professional opinion. Uh, how can it be addressed to save the marriage? One, you get in recovery and you work on your recovery, period. Don't use any excuse outside your four walls that's going to push you back into addiction. And number two, be willing to go for counseling to somebody outside the marriage who'll be the one to call your wife on the things that she needs to work on. You're not the one to be counseling her. Hopefully that's helpful. Number five, what are some of the best practices for loving your wife through challenges? Well, first of all, operate in grace, that you can live in an attitude of forgiveness to her. She is not perfect, nor is she married to somebody that's perfect. And so best practices for loving your wife, just choosing each day to do something that shows that you really love her. Choosing to do something each day that's loving, caring. Couples that are starting the turnaround in a busted up marriage, before we even get to some coaching on where they need to go, I often give them this principle. I says, between now and the next time I see you, so we've just kind of done the intake and kind of figured out what's going on. Between now and the next time I see you, I want you to do one thing. I want you both to be kind to each other. Just be kind. Just stop all this nonsense and just start being kind. You can't believe how sometimes at least half of them come back and say, boy, things really started to change when we just really focused, each of us trying to be kind to each other. At one point in my marriage, this is in the first maybe 5, 7 years of marriage, I was at a one-day marriage event, encouraging thing, and we were challenged to go on a race every morning to see who could do something kind for the person to show you love them. And I'm flipping really competitive. And so I would be laying in bed and my wife's still sleeping. I'm thinking, how can I get out of bed quietly so that she doesn't wake up? And so then I can win today by being kind to her. Well, you see, the best practice is, go back to that biblical standards of husbandhood and those 5 characteristics, and practice those, and that will really, really help. Number 6, what counts as needing to reset all clears? What and first of all, all clears. If some of you are newer, um, we challenge every man, every person in sexual addiction or porn addiction recovery to be accountable to somebody else, where you every day you check in and you simply say, AC for all clear, AC 45, AC 46, which means 46 days, and I haven't looked at anything inappropriate. And I'm going to review all clear. I have the document here that I created 7 years ago, so that there's no fuzzy. I mean, we used all clear before that, but I put this document together so that there's no doubts as what all clear is, and you can look at that document, all clear day, whatever, and it's the accountability check-in. And so all clear means that you have not viewed anything that is inappropriate sexually in any way, from any source, in any format, on any device, online or otherwise, and not viewed pornography or anything close to it in the last 24 hours. All clear means that you have not masturbated or engaged in any other form of self-stimulation so as to orgasm in the last 24 hours. Oh, and by the way, guys asked questions like, well, what if you self-stimulate but you don't orgasm? I says you're still basically focusing on sexuality in an unhealthy way. And why masturbation is off the table for the person in recovery? Because the PMO cycle, porn, masturbation, orgasm cycle, they've been so tied together. And even if it's no porn now, but you still have your mind going and it's fantasy, masturbation, orgasm, uh, masturbation is off the table for the person in recovery. Number 3, the daily all clear means that you've not looked at a person in a sexual way, but treated them with respect and not as an object for your pleasure. You haven't, objectified someone. 4, the all clear means that all your interaction, contact, or relationships with any person of the opposite sex, whether face-to-face, live online, or any other means, is in every way non-sexual and fully honorable to God and your spouse. Thus, there's no sexual contact of any kind in any discussion with any person in the last 24 hours. You should be texting your accountability partner daily. And that person, approved by your spouse, you should start receiving these daily check-ins all clear. So you're going to text AC, 41, which means I'm all clear in the last 24 hours, and this is day 42, 43, 44. And just so you know, there is 1,000-day club where people get to 1,000 days clean, and we celebrate with them. And so a commitment to walking clean is a really good thing. And you start counting your all clear based on the last day that you might have relapsed. So even if you're starting today, you count back, well, it's been already 17 days that I haven't looked at anything or masturbated. So then today would be all clear, or AC 18. If you have a relapse of any time, you have 24 hours to report this to your spouse and to the accountability people. And you can't lie. to your accountability partner, your spouse, that would be really pointless. The whole point of being all clear is that you're telling the truth. It's hard to deal with a sexual temptation, so reach out if you're struggling. But no excuses. And if you can't report in for some night, like sometimes guys go into the US from Canada and they don't have cell service down there, you let people know for 3 days I won't be reporting in because of I don't have cell service, etc. Yeah, so there's the all clear. So what counts as needing a reset? Breaching any of those. If you are objectifying the waitress where you went for lunch with a buddy and you're scoping out her belly, boobs, and butts, then you've objectified her. Now you might notice her and she's pretty, but then you quit. You don't do a second look. You don't scope her. You don't ogle her. You don't watch where she walks away. You don't look at her when she's leaning over to hand your meals to you. I understand that the all clear is clear, and you would need to reset. Number 7, is there ever a time when the all clear becomes prideful and unhelpful? So, uh, are you, for instance, is there a measure of self-satisfaction when you graduate from high school and you throw your hat up in the air and you go, woohoo, I'm done school? It's self-satisfaction. It's a sense of pride. That's a good thing. I mean, in Saskatchewan, I worked hard and built my own home. I had some, guys that were contractors would be there to answer questions for me, but there was a sense of self-satisfaction and pride that I actually built my own home that we lived in. The self-satisfaction is accomplishments, right? I mean, whether it was 2 master's degrees and a PhD, I was happy that I completed it. There's self-satisfaction. And so in the same way, when you do a good job on something, there's a sense of self-satisfaction. So every day you do an all clear is self-satisfaction. Now, if you walk around and you go, oh, aren't I something? I'm all clear 1,200 days, man. Well, that's different. There's arrogance. There's a braggadocio going on there. But I hope you're proud of 1,000 days clean. I mean, high five! What a great thing to defeat this stupid addiction that's been just crippling you. Yeah. It says, I've noticed how all clears can at times screw the progress that is being made in sexual recovery. I just say BS to that. I've never seen that. You see, you've got impure thoughts that need to be addressed. You just don't like resetting. When your mind goes wild and you're not dealing with it, but no one sees it, you think you're all clear. You're not all clear. And so it's hard. It gives you a shot of discouragement when you have to reset again, but you're being a man of integrity. You're being honest. You look at the all clear and you realize I breached the all clear according to this standard. So I'm not going to lie. And so it's hard. It gets discouraging because at first you might, relapse, 3 weeks in, and then next time you might get, 3 months, and then you might get half a year, but pretty soon you get all clear. And that's what it's about. Um, yeah. So the heart behind all clear is accountability. And like, I like it when a wife celebrates things like a year clean. Let me take you for dinner. I'm proud of you. 365 days clean. That's amazing. When a guy gets the 1,000 day club, he and the wife should, get away for a night and just celebrate. Okay. And there is a beautiful journey going on to be accountable and to be committed. And that's what's behind the all clears. Number 8, how can I have confidence that my sexual addiction is truly a thing of the past? Are you always needing to be cautious that you could fall back into it? Okay. So I don't think we're ever going to be free of a temptation to opportunize or objectify. I think that there, I mean, you and I are walking in a mall and we see a 20-something young mom with just a little child there, and she's a beautiful woman walking towards us. We're going to both notice her. But what we do after that we don't do the second long look. We look over here at the sporting goods store and look at the ball caps in the window or whatever. We do what we need to so that we don't, because scripture tells me I need to treat that woman, as a younger sister with absolute purity. Absolute purity is I will not objectify her in my mind. You see? And so I have to continue to be aware of what's going on inside of me and in my mind. And I would argue that before you would ever have affair doesn't start in the door of a bedroom. It starts in the windows of your mind. You will have thought about crossing the lines inappropriately before you actually do it. And so sexual addiction's grip on you becomes a thing of the past. But the temptation to lie about your whereabouts, the temptation to objectify people, there have been a number of occasions where complicating situations. I mean, you want to talk complicated? I'm in a hotel room in the Philippines at the World Congress of Evangelization. I was one of Canada's 80 representatives that went over to talk about how to evangelize the world. And my roommate was from the Slavic Republic, and he didn't have much English. I didn't have much Slavic, and so long and short. He was out with his friends and I was out with mine. Then I would be back in my room. Well, one night in my hotel room in the Philippines at this World Congress of Evangelization, I get a knock on the door, and I go to the door, and here it's a Filipino hooker standing there, and she looks at me, and obviously had I registered shock when I saw her standing at my door, and I said, I think you got the wrong room. And she said, is it this? And the room next to me was like the end room that was the big room on the end, and whatever it was called, not penthouse, but whatever bigger room. I said, no, that's that door over there. She said, oh, I'm sorry to bother you. And I hear knock on the door, and then I hear a guy, oh, welcome here. I was expecting you. So that messed with my head. I remember being in Russia with the Canadian hockey team with Athletes in Action. And virtually every hotel we went to, within 15, 20 minutes, there were hookers knocking at the door of all my players' rooms and even my room. See, so there's always going to be temptations. It's always going to be around us. And you have choices to make every day. I will not walk that way. I will live with a clean mind. And but as you battle those temptations, there's a joy and a growing strength. It's like I did another rejecting temptation push-up. I'm getting stronger. I'm getting stronger. My mind is getting cleaner. I love it. I'm pumping the temptation recovery workout. I'm pumping it. And you get stronger and stronger. But it's not like you're never going to be tempted. Number 9. Is masturbation without fantasy always a sin? And the comment is it's a lie from last time. So it sounds like he had confused himself that somehow it was okay. So first of all, realize for people in recovery, masturbation is wrong because it's been so connected to the addiction process of either objectifying people, fantasizing about people, or looking at pornography or anything else along that lines, questionable movies or whatever, where you're looking at a person to sexualize them, and then you masturbate to that image or those memories or whatever. And so masturbation is out of the question for people in recovery because it's been paired with inappropriate looking of some kind. So If you are a year clean or longer, and so you're 65 plus clean, and you have a discussion with your wife, because see, the Bible doesn't categorically say in any way that masturbation is wrong. It says looking after people to lust after them, you're committing adultery in your heart. It talks about you shouldn't be mastered by anything, and many people are mastered by pornography. Sorry, by mastered by masturbation. Um, but it doesn't say. I mean, the Bible says that sex with children is wrong. You know, sex with animals is wrong. Sex with more than one person is wrong. You need to be faithful. The Bible says a lot of specific things, but it doesn't say specifically that self-stimulation of the porn orgasm is wrong. So I can't tell you what the Bible doesn't say. Problem being, it's so associated with inappropriate thoughts. You know, Jesus said, if you look after a woman to lust after her, you've already committed adultery of the heart, porneia of the heart. And so masturbation is out of the question. Now, if you're clean for a while and you and your wife talk about masturbation and just say, okay, if I'm gone for 3 weeks with this work assignment over here, as long as I think about you, would it be okay if I masturbated once in that time because I feel the need to? You and your wife have a discussion and she's in acceptance of it, maybe. But never notice I said a whole year clean and even beyond. Because getting into the practice of self-stimulation does not lead you back to your wife. The whole point of the addiction, sorry, the whole point of the sexual drive is to continue to bring you and your wife back together. And if you have brokenness in your sexual relationship because of your addiction, well, it's going to take some work to work through. But so is masturbation without fantasy always a sin? No. But you've heard the conditions upon which it is really problematic. Number 10, how do you rebuild trust with your wife when boundaries, she has boundaries like limiting what you text, and all you can do is the texting and the calls you make are only for kid logistics. So she has boundaries saying that you can only text, about kid stuff, and you can't make any calls, whatever. So I don't know if this is because you guys are separated, or if this is because she has just been hurt by your broken trust in your addiction. But the boundaries are there because she doesn't feel safe. Boundaries make people feel safe. Boundaries are like guardrails on a steep cliff. Boundaries are like a chain link fence so that you don't fall in a 400-foot cliff. Boundaries are there to keep you safe. In this case here, she has boundaries to make herself feel safe. So if she at this time has said, you can only make texting and calls to me about the kids, whether it's because you guys are separated and there's brokenness there, or because she's so messed up by all the things you've done with your phone. This is where most people are being messed up. They're being messed up online with their phone. It's not even the computer. Yes, it can be a computer. Yes, it can be TV. Yes, it can be real people. But I would say that 80% of the time it's your own phone that's getting you into trouble. So, discuss with a third party about the boundaries that you feel aren't fair, and ask her why it's there. And then appreciate the fact that most of the time the boundaries are there because she does not feel safe, and you have been breaking her heart with your actions. Number 11, out of 13, by the way, for someone who has been married but now is separated and heading to divorce, which means a loss of sexual intimacy for the foreseeable future and possibly forever, the temptation to masturbate can be stronger. What is the best way to handle that temptation in the face of that loss? Well, you have two things going on. One is you're trying to recover from a sexual addiction where there was some version of PMO, porn masturbation orgasm, or fantasy masturbation orgasm, or you had a sexual outlet with your wife that hopefully was helpful, but not necessarily. It might have been very selfish interaction with your wife. I don't know that. But is it going to be hard for you not to masturbate now that you're single and alone? Yeah, yeah. Keep in mind that you can live maybe 3 to 4 minutes without air. You can live, yeah, 3 for maybe up to 5, 7 days without water. And you can maybe live 3 weeks without food, but you can actually live without sexual release. Now, it's hilarious. I've been doing this a long time, people. Oh, you don't understand my sexual addiction, Dave. I would explode. I would die if I didn't relieve myself. No. You have catered to that need without discretion for so long that you have said it is a need. I have to do this. And I say, no, it's been proven. You can live without having sex with somebody. You can live without releasing. Matter of fact, the body takes care of it automatically every 72 hours or so, especially with your younger. You have nocturnal night emission, release of semen that comes automatically so that the buildup is not there. Now, what happens is you're addicted to the rush that comes. And so I have to. No, you. What you're saying is I want that release because it feels really good. And when I'm in pain, I like to have that joy for at least the 2 minutes of pleasure. Okay, but I recognize the challenges when you're trying to come out of addiction that has caused the brokenness of your marriage. But categorically, you just have to continue to walk with purity, and you can live without masturbating. You can. Number 12, can God somehow be more glorified as a result of my addiction? Like David's sin with Bathsheba. God is only glorified by a person's response from their failure. You're not more glorified. God's not more glorified by your failure. He is glorified by your genuine recovery. But to think that it would, think of the consequences of David's sin. He not only has an affair on another man's wife, he tries to have the other man, sleep with his wife to cover the fact that his affair caused a pregnancy. And then when the guy didn't sleep with his wife because he's too loyal to David as one of his soldiers, he puts him to the front line and tells the commander, pull back, but don't tell him everybody else is pulling back, and he gets overcome and gets killed by the enemies. Basically, he orchestrated his death. Well, that really sounds like, God's more glorified by my failure. Tell that to Uriah when David had him killed. Tell that to Bathsheba when her first child died after birth. There's a lot of heartache that goes with it. You're in a position here where God can be glorified by redeeming the rest of your life. And God loves you, and he can always redeem the rest of your life. That's the beautiful thing about the redemption story. He does not hold our past against us. And yes, can he bring beauty out of ashes? Yes, he can. That's what he's doing with many of you. It's fabulous. God is glorified by your recovery. But to say he's more glorified because I had this mess and look at what I'm doing now, no, not more glorified. He's glorified by your recovery, but he's also glorified by your faithfulness. He's glorified by your faithfulness. And if, maybe not on this call, but the idea that there are people that have never gone in the direction of, porn addiction, sexual addiction, acting out, getting all messed up in that glorifies God. But he loves you, and he's glorified by your recovery, but he's not glorified by your failure. So now it's, I'm more glorified because look at how bad things were. So, okay. So grow in appreciation of the goodness of God in your life, and rest in his forgiveness, rest in the beautiful fresh start, and live in a way that you're surrendered to him so that your life will be an example to others because of how you've dealt with this. And that you will encourage a lot of other people listening to this call, that you will encourage those in your small group. What a fabulous way to live. Last question for today. At what point am I free from my sexual addiction? Or is it once an addict, always an addict? I don't think it's once an addict, always an addict. But I do not ever discount the fact that I can be tempted and you can be tempted again. So once an addict, always an addict? No, you're not going to act out. You're not going to do those things. You're not going to go lying and hiding and looking at porn and, going to peep shows or talking online or whatever else you've done, acting out with real people or whatever. You're not going to go there. That's good. But not once an addict, always an addict. Once a man, always potentially to be tempted. Mhm. But you don't have to be in that dark addiction cycle where you feel out of control, you can't stop, and you're lying and you're hurting your spouse and you're in danger of losing your marriage. You don't have to be that addict. But once a man, always a man, and you can be visually tempted, and you have to stop the second looks. And I mean, my wife and I would be watching a movie, and and we're 51 years married. There's a controller between her and I. And when we get to a part of a movie that, there's a sexual scene coming, we don't need to watch someone else have sex. We know how to do that. And we don't want to have those images in our mind. So I have the controller here and there's a 30-second advance. You push that, it advances 30 seconds. If there's still, bedroom action going on, I click it again and we know what happened in that 1 minute. We know what happened. And so at one point, we just live respectfully and honorably. We live respectfully and honorably. And the more we defeat the addiction patterns, we're not an addict anymore. But we're still a man that has the propensity, which is the possibility to be tempted in some way. And I'll just keep my guard up. I'll be keep accountable every week. And so hopefully that answers your question about once an addict, always an addict. Now, it feels like once an addict, always an addict when you're early in recovery because you get duped doing the same things again. You fall back the same way until you get that behind you and you finally walk in greater purity and with clearer boundaries and safeguards and greater recovery material in you. And you start to renew your mind. You start to deal with your soul wounds and all these things. And you're not an addict anymore like you used to be. You still will get tempted and you still have to deal with it. So hope that's helpful. I have to tell you how unbelievably impressed I am with the questions that you have put out here. And I pray and I ask God to help me to answer them in a way that's helpful to you. And I have one more week of questions next time. And so, it's my prayer that you will have been encouraged by that today.